my question is, are you that 1 in 10 who's getting ready to list your home?
Right.
90% of them are going to say no, easily 90%.
Yep.
Plenty of others will too. And the only reason I tell you that is not to discourage you, but to encourage you that when you get the no, you're not doing anything wrong. People who are afraid to make the call are afraid that if every single person doesn't say, yes, can you come over and list my house, then they somehow did it wrong. The numbers just say not everybody's moving. That's okay.
Right.
But if you were to ask 100 people, are you that 1 in 10 who's getting ready to list your house? Ish, 10% of them will say yes. What if 2 of them said yes?
Right.
Yeah.
Always good to see you. Happy Friday. Today we are discussing the topic only listings.
I hope people feel triggered. Things only, that's it. You only get listings in your whole career.
Boy, what a dream. What a dream that would be. The idea behind that is if you have listings, then you will always have buyers, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've used this analogy before. If you're walking through the mall and you walk past Pottery Barn and there's literally nothing in the store, but the doors are open and there's salespeople milling about, you're probably not going to walk into the store, right? You're going to think, wow, that's really weird. There's a Pottery Barn, but there's no furniture in there, right? That's a real estate agent without listings, right? But a real estate agent with listings will always have people walking into their little retail store.
Yes, but your analogy carries. You could then run ads to say, I'm willing to drive you all over town to other people's furniture stores if you like. Like, that's exhausting, right? But you could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a service that Pottery Barn provides just yet. So where do you want to start with this listings only concept?
Well, I said I hope you're triggered because that's really what I wanted out of the title. Because, of course, you could have listings only, but that's not what today's show is about. Today's show is about focusing on listings only, marketing for listings only. If you skewed your marketing and your conversations to getting more listings, the buyers would line up behind you like little ducks. That's not going to be a problem. But most agents right now listening are probably thinking, wait, but I also want buyers. I like buyers. The problem is that now you're setting your filter and you mostly talk about buying. Right. And you don't realize it, but you and I, Charlie, coach so many agents. We've had enough, thousands of conversations. We know how often it is that people tend to skew their conversations and their marketing toward, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to, whatever it is. Now, hopefully, even those buying ads attract list then buy, right? That's a thing too. And so please don't be all in your head about Amy's wrong, attracting buyers works. Of course it does. But what if, this is what we're going to play today, what if you only focused on generating listing leads and that's all you ever talked about? How would that change your business, right? Because when you mostly focus on buyers or equally buyers and sellers, right, the impact is not as strong as if you really, really hone your skill at talking about listing process, listing excellence, having more listings and promoting those listings. Let's start leveraging our listings at a higher level because that gets to be step 2. Once you've advertised and marketed your own listing skill and your own listing excellence, you have a ton of listings. Now you market those listings at such a high level, you're going to need some help. You're going to be drowning in buyers, which wasn't the goal, but don't overthink where will the buyers come from. And so don't say Amy's wrong. Just really, really hear me out. And today we're going to talk about a lot of different ways to attract listings.
Awesome. So give me one. What would be your number one way to attract listings?
Ooh, so my number one way to attract listings, boy, this is really a chicken and egg problem. The number one way would be to leverage the listings that you have better. And maybe that doesn't sound like a number one because I don't have a listing yet, but like number one in value and impact and importance. And most of us dismiss that. I didn't need to. I put it in the MLS and it was sold in 24 hours. Okay, that's on you. So you need to do all the things. You need to do the countdown. You need to do the coming soon. You know, if they're having their carpets cleaned and you're at least a week out from going on the market, stand out in front of their house with your phone and say, hey, this beauty's coming. And if you tell me, no, we're not allowed. We don't have coming soon in my market. I get that. So don't give the address, right? Just say 3-bedroom, 2-bath, study, open loft concept, place for the kids to homeschool, whatever you're saying. Really do a lot to educate people. If you're not talented on a bicycle, get someone else to wear a GoPro on their head and ride a bicycle from the park to the house, right? That's an incredible video, and say, look at this 2-minute ride from the park to the house by bicycle. Get creative with your marketing. Not only will you attract more people to your seller's property and get more offers, you're demonstrating your skill, your talent, and your tenacity as a listing marketer. So I think that's number one.
Yeah, and I think that, like you mentioned before, the idea here is we're going to be collecting and attracting buyers just by having listings. But if you do unique marketing anyway, buyers are going to be drawn to you just from that, right? It's like, wow, I've never seen a real estate agent doing this before or doing that before. Yep. This is really simple. We've talked about it before. Are you with everything that's happened, are you currently living in your dream home, right? If the answer is no, yes, that's what you mentioned a minute ago. That is a buyer conversation in a way, but they're going to need to list their home.
Sure.
Right? So I do think that there are opportunities with the database. I know you've got tons of ideas today and I want to get to them, but I don't want to forget about the simple one, the one that we always forget, the cheapest source of business. And I feel like we're beating a dead horse every time we bring it up, but I talk about it all the time because every time I ask the question, has everyone that you know well heard from you in the last 90 days by phone? And it could be voice, it could be text. I think I've had one person, I've asked that question hundreds of times. One person has said yes. And he was probably lying to me.
Yeah, probably. And you know what, Charlie, you're 100% right. I overlooked it because we talk about it all the time. And so I was going to the frosting and not the cupcake. You're absolutely right. Step number one is talk to every single person you have a phone number for, or some way of contact them on Messenger. Don't tell me most of my people are on Facebook and I don't have their phone number. Great, message them, right? Yep. But ask, and we have all the scripts. So I don't know, when should we do those?
Future show, I suppose.
Well, but I mean, today this is all things listings, all the things. Yeah. So you had a great one. Are you living in your dream home? Great question. Super easy. Yes, no. Everybody's going to say no. Nobody's living in their dream home, right? Even if they're not planning to move. But then you could ask, well, what does your dream home look like? Now we have
exactly. Yeah.
That makes it fun, right? Yep. Now it's fun. My question is, are you that 1 in 10 who's getting ready to list your home?
Right.
90% of them are going to say no. Easily 90%.
Yep.
Plenty of others will too. And the only reason I tell you that is not to discourage you, but to encourage you that when you get the no, you're not doing anything wrong. People who are afraid to make the call are afraid that if every single person doesn't say, yes, can you come over and list my house, then they somehow did it wrong. The numbers just say not everybody's moving. That's okay.
Right.
But if you were to ask 100 people, are you that 1 in 10 who's getting ready to list your house? 10% of them will say yes. What if 2 of them said yes?
Right.
Yeah. So there's 2 easy scripts right there.
Yeah, there was, we were at an event a couple months ago, and I think that it was presented where somebody texted like 200 people, right? This texting script around, do you need to know your home's value, or are you currently living in your dream home? Something like that, or maybe it was both. And he ended up sending, there was 40 people wanted CMAs. He has 4 people that are looking to list soon. He's got 3 people getting pre-approved for an investment property. I mean, it really is a matter of the more people that you talk to, the more business you're going to get in general, right? But that also, same thing with listings. And we know in most markets in the country right now, a listing is like a paycheck, right? And a buyer is like a pain in the neck because you've got to show them and write on multiple properties, and they're not getting it, and you're one of 15 offers, and Amy and I are aware of that. We do feel your pain, which is why we wanted to focus on listings today. So give me another idea of how to focus or how to get my next listing.
One of my personal favorites is to do home value reports. And you can make them easy or you can make them fancy. And I'm a fan of fancy, but perfect is the enemy of good enough. So do whatever. But every single person who owns a house, and oh my goodness, Charlie, I can't believe we have to play definitions. Maybe we need to act a little less cynical on this show.
Okay.
Let's pretend it's our first show. Let's be less cynical. So here's the difference between past clients and sphere of influence. Past clients are people who bought or sold with you.
Yes.
Right. Sphere of influence is all the people that who know you, that you have some influence over, and they have influence over you. And those people need somewhere to live too. And they're not actually different from your past clients. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, someone who bought a house from me once may or may not be the next most likely to use my services. It could be someone who has never used my service, right?
Right.
Maybe I have a client, maybe they will still be in their house long after I've, hung up my shingle and stopped doing the biz, right? So to me, past clients are a subset of your entire sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. And remember, your sphere of influence is the people that who know you, that you have influence over, and they have influence over you. Hopefully you like these people. If you don't like them, I would kick them out of your mental sphere. Okay, don't deal with people you don't like. That's just gross. So now that we've established it's all the humans, right? It's the people who do your nails. It's your child's second grade teacher. It's all the humans. Now, maybe prioritize them, because doing home value reports isn't not work. That's work.
Yep.
So figure out who your A's are, who are your best people, the people you like the most, the people most likely to refer you, or the people who are the most connected in your community. You figure out some way of getting the cream to the top.
Yep.
And then do home value reports for them. You can use RPR. You can log into narrpr.com, and their address, and print or email a simple PDF. I'm a fan of making it nicer and putting a custom cover and binding it. I've shared on previous shows. I have a friend who does this faithfully. It's her absolute bread and butter. She has this whole format with comps around, and it doesn't have to be true comps. Now I'm doing the whole other show, and this isn't fair, but you don't actually have to comp the property, and I recommend that you not.
Okay.
Pull the houses around and say, these are the sales in your area this year, right? You can include the tax records and something like an RPR Zestimate, but just put a huge disclaimer on there that this is just what the tax records came up with, or this is just an automated valuation. If they're interested in their home's new value, that you would be thrilled to come by and do an actual market valuation. Yep. But if you did a bunch of these between now and the end of the year, you're super top of mind for sellers.
Yeah, totally. You can go to dominaterealestate.net, click on Get More Sellers, click on Annual Home Value Reports, and the whole project is right there for you from A to Z, what to do, sample letter, how to get to RPR, everything Amy talked about. There's examples, so feel free to check that out. But no, I am an advocate of doing that on a regular basis, right? Everyone in our sphere gets one of those every year. We don't do typically more per week than we have time to follow up with the next week. Because, I'm a big advocate of the mail, right? Why is that? Well, it doesn't get lost in the spam folder, right? It may be delivered a little bit later right now due to the, climate at the Postal Service, but they're going to get it. Yeah. And then it's the easiest script ever. Hey, did you get my mail last week? So when you're afraid of the phone, it just makes for a super easy script. So that whole project is online, ready for people, to download and to check out. One of my ideas is using Remind. I know that the agents in the Washington metro market get Remind Pro for free through the Bright MLS. Many agents around the country get Remind for free through the MLS, and you're able to go through there and look at the people more easily than digging around the tax records, right? Looking for absentee owners, you're able to print labels for those people and send home value reports to them as well, right? So this is getting away from the sphere a little bit, but I think that a lot of agents tend to forget about their absentee owners. And if agents are farming using EDDM, those absentee owners are not getting the information that they're being sent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think hitting them up every once in a while makes sense, and then trying to find their phone numbers through, different ways to try to follow up, is logical. And with Remind, I've never been a big I don't know, maybe I should be a proponent. I've never been a big proponent of this AI, the smart zip stuff, the predictive analytics of who's going to list their home next.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would do a study on that and see if that stuff actually works. Maybe there has been, and I'm being cynical, like we said we weren't going to do 5 minutes ago. I just know that I've had clients use Smart Zip and they've not, it's just not worked well for them. But were they using the system as they should? Who knows, right?
Well,
I mean, so there's that.
I want to speak to this too so that we can just put it to bed. I think you're right. I think a lot of our clients have had something like a Smart Zip and not used it to its fullest.
Yeah.
However, they're all really expensive. And I always ask people to think about, could you repurpose that money to a system that gives less of your money to another organization? That $1,200 a month that is just to the organization, how much of that could have gone to doing a better job for your sphere, right? When you have 300 people in a database that you're not nurturing on a regular basis and you're overthinking that $6 pumpkin, right? So that would mean, I agree with you. I don't think they're worth the money. I think most agents underutilize them. So don't
Where I was going was Remind has that in there, the predictive analytics for free if you get the pro for free, right? I'm not sure I would only mail the people that are predicted to sell soon. I think I would just send the report out, right, to the area that I wanted to all of the absentee owners. I wouldn't go cherry picking because I just don't know how accurate that is.
Nope. But then that gets us to, what are you sending? and then I know we talk about how good enough, or what perfect is the enemy of good enough. But I've heard it from numerous places, Charlie, that be careful what you, I heard this from Bomb Bomb, be careful what you send to your people. You're educating them about whether or not to tune you out. I also heard this from Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. Put all your money and your attention into the quality of your content, not the size of your boost. Because putting together a crap postcard that looks like spam and sending it to thousands of people is not as effective as putting together something extraordinary and sending it to 200 people.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm an advocate of pick the Logan Circle neighborhood of DC. If I've hit my sphere up and I'm still looking for listings, maybe you're looking at Logan Circle, DC, absentee owners, and you're doing 10 home value reports a week for them, right? Just getting into the groove of that, because I do think there's a lot of agents that forget about those people.
Yes, absolutely.
Or they're doing the EDDM, right, postcards, and those people never get anything, right, because the mail doesn't forward to them.
I think the other point of the day needs to be focus will take you everywhere. And I'm always going to say this no matter what we're talking about. So what you said about absentee owners, if you want to do that, don't send 5 and give up.
Right.
Choose it as a source and start going after absentee owners. You're going to refine your messaging. You're going to have better follow-up. You're going to have a better process and a better plan to offer to them. So if you want to go after absentee owners, and it's a heck of a time, although in different states and different jurisdictions, in Colorado, you cannot evict a tenant.
That's the case in many places.
Yeah. So that's through the end of the year here in Colorado. So see how soon.
But there are tenants that want to move. There are tenants that intend to move at the end of their lease term, things like that. But yes, I agree. There's certainly a segment of, I'm not even going to go there. I think there's a segment of some folks that are not paying their rent because they know they cannot be evicted.
Sure. And you could just come up against that problem. So, but anyway, focus. When we give you all these ideas, I would pick a method and really do it well.
Yeah, choose one, go all in, level 10, right? And then when you've exhausted that, then pivot to another idea. You and I are both advocates, or we are not proponents, rather, of people having 10 lead sources, working them at a level 4. We'd rather them see them with 4 lead sources, working them at a level 10. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely. What's another idea of listings only?
So I personally think buyer need is a great way to go after listings. Okay. Now I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't pretend that I had buyers if I didn't, but we all have buyers. And if you don't, by the way, talk around to enough people,
Yep.
your
Yep.
mastermind, whatever, and find out what their need is and get specific. And maybe this is just me, Charlie, because I'm such a people-oriented person, but my experience and my success with sharing buyer need is to be hyper-specific.
Yep.
So I currently get tons and tons of mail at my own house from flippers saying that they desperately want to buy my house. And it's the same postcard over and over and over, and it's addressed to my ex-husband. He has not lived here in a very long time. So does this feel personal? No.
Right.
Believable? Not at all. So I have a buyer need postcard or letter goes like this. Dave and Carol are downsizing from Glen Eagle and absolutely are determined to live in Arendelle or Pulpit Rock. And I've shown them everything. Who do you know, right?
Yep.
Who do you know who may be looking to sell their home in the next 3 months? They need and I described the property that they actually wanted, but I made it loose enough that it included every house in the neighborhood. It was true, but it wasn't hyper specific so that somebody would throw it away if it didn't apply to their house. Well, Dave and Carol got a divorce, but I got a listing. So I door knock with that, mail that, however you do it. There's the concept of the yikes campaign.
Right.
My buyer missed out.
Yep.
But again, you actually have to have a buyer in that case.
Right.
So I think I wouldn't lie.
No. I think that's good advice. I have another coaching client that takes it a step further and says, by the way, I am just looking to represent my buyers in their home. You can use your own realtor for this transaction. You can represent yourself. In other words, this is not a fishing expedition for listings. She almost handles that objection before it even comes up by putting those extra 2 sentences in her letter, and that works well for her. And she still gets listings, by the way. People still call her. It's not a good fit. They still want to sell. They like her on the phone. She builds rapport. She goes over there. She gets the listing, right? Because most people, they don't want to represent themselves.
Yeah.
Right. And they may not have another agent, or the other agent they've not heard from in years. Right. And here's somebody who's doing something a little bit different. Right.
Great.
Along those lines, we had a treat on the last mastermind a couple weeks ago. I had a coaching client who built his business in Manhattan around an I have a buyer campaign.
Okay.
And was sending thousands of letters a month. He usually had a buyer. He didn't always have a buyer. That's not how he does his business anymore.
Okay.
But all of these, because he was young, he was on the phone all the time. He was getting a gazillion calls, right? I don't know how old he is. He's 40, maybe. He's sold $1 billion in his career already, right? So this is a player. And self-addressed, stamped, non-branded envelopes, handwritten, right, with the letter in there, I've got a buyer. It worked really well for him.
Sure.
But most of the people listening or watching, they do have a buyer because, like you said, they work in large offices or with large companies, and one of their colleagues has a buyer. So I'm not saying send the letter and then figure it out, but maybe doing, like you said, a little bit of masterminding around, this is an area that I really want to go after. Who has a buyer? And maybe that person doesn't want to spend the money on the Yikes campaign, or maybe that buyer, this comes up a lot in group coaching, and I try to narrow them, to the Yikes campaign. But if they want to live in Northwest DC in a 2-bedroom condo and they don't really care about the neighborhood, it's the area is too big to send a Yikes campaign.
Right.
But if I wanted to use those buyers as an example and mail into Logan Circle in Northwest, that makes sense. And then I can call you and say, hey, guess what? I got a hit, right? I do have somebody that has a hit. Maybe this will work for your buyers because I knew they were looking at Northwest. So I do think that it makes a lot of sense to be collaborative. And there's a lot of RE/MAX agents watching this. And RE/MAX agents are not exactly known as the most collaborative bunch. I hate to break it, to the world, but, they're very independent, very entrepreneurial. And sometimes collaboration, right? The sharing is not a bad thing. And knowing that, oh yeah, so-and-so did have a buyer for that neighborhood. Let me check and see if she still does because I want to mail in there. She might say, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. Well, and you can get creative. Your piece could say, this X neighborhood is so desirable. And last year we had so many sales, and
Yep.
this year we're at this year to date. And we have way more buyers than
Right.
homes to sell them.
Yep.
Seeing multiple offers in 3 days. Last year it was more like X. So here's where we are, and here's, be specific, and then don't mail the same piece next month like the people keep mailing me.
Exactly. Any closing thoughts on what was a really good topic today?
Oh my goodness, there's so many more. So here's what I want to leave you with. Figure out what your listings only strategy will be, and don't overthink the what about the buyers. Market every single listing. Okay, that was my last idea, is you can market closed listings as case studies. Leverage the listings that you've already sold and tell them how you got it done, because you're demonstrating your excellence, you're demonstrating your expertise. So sit down with your content grid, write out a vision for all the different things that you're going to post, share, comment on, conversations, and then just hold yourself to it.
I love it. Do something.
Do something.
Do something. Always good to see you, Amy. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.